Today I want to share with you my Costco haul and show you how I shop for traditional foods at Costco. Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary and welcome to Mary's Nest, where I teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, ferment, sourdough, and more. So if you enjoy learning about those things, consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I upload a new video. As traditional home cooks, we really strive to create very nutritious as well as delicious meals for ourselves, our family, and our friends. And when it comes to creating those meals, we want to find as high quality foods as we can, but at the same time to get the most from our dollar. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I live in Central Texas and we have a wonderful grocery store chain here called H-E-B, and I shop there a lot. But I also like to go into Austin and shop at Costco. So today I want to share with you what I recently purchased at Costco that I feel fits very nicely under the traditional foods umbrella. Now the first items that I want to share with you are my cold items. And of this cold lineup, I have to first start with this duck. I just thought this was so much fun when I saw this in the frozen food section. Now this was about $15, but I think that I can get a number of meals out of this. Now I thought this would be fun to roast when our son comes home, and that would be feeding 3 of us. And I might have a few leftovers, and that would be great to use in, a salad or a soup, something like that. But then I'll use the carcass to make bone broth. And if you've been with me a while, you know I make a lot of bone broth. I've got a lot of videos on how to make bone broth, which I'll be sure to link to. But I'll use that to make bone broth. And then after I strain the bone broth and the fat floats to the top, I'll skim that off. And then I'll have some wonderful duck fat to use for cooking. It's terrific for frying up potatoes or sauteing homemade breadcrumbs. I just love it. So I feel I can get a lot out of this duck. It was about $15, but I do feel that I'm going to get a lot of things out of it that I'll be able to use, the actual meal, the bone broth, and the duck fat. So I thought that would be a nice addition to my traditional foods kitchen. Next, under the poultry umbrella, I got some chicken breasts, which I just thought were beautiful, and these are organic. And then I also bought 2 whole, they're heavy, 2 whole chickens. Now, for the most part, I really like to just buy whole chickens because you can just do so much with them. You can roast them and then you can save the bones to make a bone broth. You can do a quick batch with just 1 carcass, or as I often have showed you in the past in other videos, I like to save 3 carcass and then make a really nice rich chicken bone broth. But whatever the case may be, a whole chicken is something that you can make, I'll make it for a Sunday dinner and then I'll have some leftovers through the week. And then, as I said, I also get the bone broth. And then, like with the duck, when the fat floats to the top, I skim that off and I save that. Chicken fat is also wonderful to cook with, known as schmaltz. Also great for using if you make chopped chicken livers, which is a very nutrient-dense food. So I really am very happy when I can buy some beautiful whole chickens. And what I do when I go to Costco is I look for the biggest ones I can find. It's hard to find the big roasters today. Often the chickens are just sort of your smaller fryers. But I'll look for the biggest ones. And so this was a total of over 10 pounds, almost 11 pounds. So each chicken is, 5+ pounds each. So that's fantastic. Now these are organic chickens, and the price for both of these was $24.25. So each chicken is a little more than $12, and as I mentioned earlier, each chicken is probably a little over 5 pounds each. And if you're new to cooking a whole chicken, I have a lot of videos on how to roast a chicken, how to braise a chicken, how to cook it in the Instant Pot, and I'll be sure to link to those videos. But a whole chicken can serve so many wonderful uses for the traditional foods kitchen. Now, I also did get some boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I don't try to rely on these because they are more expensive than the whole chicken, and it's sort of what I call like a limited use food. However, I do feel that these can come in very handy for those times when you're exceptionally busy and you just need to throw a quick meal together. Now these boneless, skinless chicken breasts are organic, and they come in 3 packages like this that you can easily cut down the middle here and store them in your freezer easily. And this whole package weighs a little over 5 pounds, and it was $25.55. So unlike the whole chickens, they are considerably more expensive. And I think no matter where you buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts, especially if they're organic, they always do tend to lean on the expensive side. But I do like to keep them in my freezer for a sort of a kind of an emergency when I know that I'm going to have an exceptionally busy day, and I just want to have something that's very easy to maybe just bread up and saute in a frying pan and just get something quickly on the table. Also too, something that I will do with these chicken breasts is when I open them, as I said, I usually see about 3 in here, I will, in essence, fillet them. I will cut them longwise and turn them into cutlets. And that way I can stretch, in essence, the chicken breast. Rather than just cooking one big, thick chicken breast, fillet it, maybe pound it a little, and bread it, and fry it up like that, or pan fry it. I have a video where I show you how I like to prepare it. And that helps stretch it, especially if I'm feeding a larger crowd than just my husband and I. The next thing that I like to get at Costco is this uncured Canadian bacon. And it has no nitrates and no nitrites, so I like that. Now this has 2 packages, as you can see, and what I'll do is separate this and just put the 2 packages into my freezer, and then when I'm ready to prepare this, if it's just going to be for me and my husband, I'll actually just kind of break this once it's frozen and just prepare 1 sleeve of this and then quickly rewrap the second sleeve and put that back into the freezer while it's still frozen. So this really, I find, works out very well because this whole package is $9, or at least at my Costco, is $9.99. So in essence, we're spending $2.50 for a total, each serving, in essence, 4 servings are coming in at $2.50 each. So I think that's pretty good. The next thing I picked up was actually new to me. I've never tried this before, but it's hickory smoked uncured turkey bacon, and it has no nitrites and no nitrates. So I said, well, I'm going to give this a try. Plus, it has 4 packages here, and it was $12.99. So I thought that was a pretty good buy. So that's going to work out to about $3.25 a package, and so I thought that was pretty good. This is a total of 2.5 pounds. So I feel, pretty good. It's good quality, and I feel the price is fair. So this is definitely something that, assuming that we like it, I think we're going to, and it's definitely something I think I'll start adding to my Traditional Foods kitchen on a regular basis. The other thing I love to get at Costco are cheeses. They have a wonderful selection. And one of my favorite to buy there is Pecorino Romano. This is a wonderful cheese. It's made from sheep's milk, which is very nutritious. And not only do I like the flavor, it's also considerably less expensive than the Parmigiano Reggiano, but they're both nice hard cheeses. Now this is about 1.5 pounds, and it was $12.48. But this is going to last me a long time, and you're only going to use this in small amounts. And the same goes for the Parmigiano Reggiano. This also is about 1.5 pounds. Little more expensive. As I said, this one was $12.48. It was $8.49 a pound. And this also is about 1.5 pounds, and it was a total of $19.87. So considerably more expensive. This is $13.99 a pound. But I am of Italian descent, so I'm going to have Parmigiano Reggiano in my house. But these are just 2 really wonderful traditional foods. And again, you're using these in small amounts, and they should last you a while, and so you can really get the most for your money out of them. Now these are 2 cheeses that my family really enjoy. This is the Coastal cheese, and this is from the UK, and this is the Kerrygold cheese. This is from Ireland. This is almost £1.75 and it's $6.79 a pound. So this entire block was $11.41. And this was about £1.25, and this is $6.99 a pound. So this came in at a total price of $8.67. But these are both high quality cheeses, and they would cost me more if I could find them at my grocery store. Now they would be in smaller portions, so for some people maybe the smaller portion works better, but my family will go through this relatively quickly, and I can also use it in different recipes. And both are just a wonderful flavor and very rich in nutrients. So I think you can't miss on either of these. Now I want to mention two things. As we go through the list of things that I like to buy at Costco, if there are things that you like to buy that I've not mentioned here, be sure to leave it in the comments below, because that'll help all of us to learn how we can find other traditional foods at Costco. Plus, if you open the description under this video, there'll be a link that'll say blog post. And if you click on that link, it'll take you over to my website, Mary's Nest, same name as my YouTube channel, where I'm going to cover all of the foods that I like to get at Costco, along with links to recipes and videos where I show you how to make the things using these traditional foods. Now, Costco offers a huge selection of fresh fruits and vegetables to choose from, but I really price comparison shop when I go there, because my own grocery store, H-E-B, also has a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, many of which are grown here in Texas, and the prices are extremely competitive. For example, in the winter months, I can get a 10-pound bag of grapefruit, fresh grapefruit, for $5, Texas grapefruit, and that's pretty hard to beat anywhere. So when you're shopping at Costco for fresh fruits and vegetables, just compare prices with your local grocery store to see where you can get your best deal. But something that I have found very affordable there are the romaine hearts and the spring green mix. And these are two things that I really like to buy. Now that the weather's warming up, my husband and I will often have a salad every day, and this has 6 heads of romaine in it, and so that'll last us about a week. And this was $4.49, and it's organic, so that I thought was an excellent price. And this big box of spring green mix, which is 1 pound, was $3.39, which I also thought was a very good buy, especially since it's organic. And something like this, there's so much that you can do with a spring green mix. You can juice it, you can throw it into salads, or you can even saute it with a little bit of olive oil or ghee or butter, whatever you like, and create a great side dish. You can even mix it, which is something I like to do, is to mix it into scrambled eggs with a little cream cheese or a little sour cream. Oh, it makes a wonderful dish. And the nice thing about being able to work a lot of greens into our diet is these are a really great source of important minerals. Costco also has a fantastic selection of canned goods, and I really like to buy canned goods for my prepper pantry because they just store so beautifully, because they put them in boxes like this. Now, if you've not seen my videos on how I stock and prepare my prepper pantry, I'll be sure to link to those. Those can be very interesting, especially now during the summer months is a really good time to start stocking your prepper pantry in preparation for the fall and the winter, the colder months. Now, I actually like to grow and can a lot of my own tomatoes, and I have videos where I show you how to can tomatoes. You can water bath can tomatoes, so if you're new to home canning, that's a great place to start, and I'll be sure to link to those videos where I go through all the step-by-step process when it comes to home canning with water bath canning. But I also like to buy canned tomatoes to keep as a backup in my prepper pantry. Now, I actually took this box out of my prepper pantry because when we were at Costco, I couldn't find these. They had tomato paste and tomato sauce, but they didn't have canned tomatoes or diced tomatoes, which is what I've got here. So always be on the lookout. If you shop at these big box stores like Costco or maybe like Sam's, keep a lookout if you go there on a regular basis, because they do stock different things at different times, and sometimes things just sell out. And during what we've gone through over 2020 and then 2021, a lot of these big box stores sold out of a lot of things. So definitely keep your eye open for diced tomatoes or canned tomatoes if that's something that you like to stock, because I find having canned tomatoes, whether they're home canned or store-bought canned, come in so handy for pulling together quick recipes, a quick pasta recipe, whirling them in the blender to make a quick tomato sauce, throwing them on top of chicken, putting them in rice and doing a Mexican rice. There's just a lot of things that canned tomatoes can come in handy for. So this is something I definitely recommend looking for at Costco. And just speaking about canned food in general, the big box stores like Costco and Sam's sell a lot of canned food, and not just canned vegetables. They have canned fruits, they also have fruit in the jar, and they sell canned meats. But when it comes to the canned meats, I find you need to be a little selective. First of all, you want to compare price with your local grocery store, and you want to read the ingredients. Sometimes the canned chicken or the canned meat or the canned fish may contain a lot of preservatives that I generally don't like to have in my traditional foods kitchen. It may be okay to keep a few cans in emergency, but when it comes to Costco and actually versus Sam's, I like the canned chicken at Sam's better because it's actually more natural when you read the ingredients on the back, at least the canned chicken that both of them have been carrying recently. But again, you always have to check, and you've got to read the back, the ingredients on the back of the cans, because a lot of times what they are supplying in their store and selling does change from season to season or even month to month. So that was just my experience recently. But something that I saw at Costco that I thought was wonderful was wild-caught salmon in the can. And I have a recipe where I show you how to use canned salmon to make really nice salmon patties. And I'll be sure to link to that. But that's something to keep an eye open for, because canned salmon is very good for you. It's very high in omega-3 and essential fatty acid that's really important for us. It's very good for the heart and the brain. And so being able to incorporate foods like that into our diet, really nutrient-dense foods into the traditional foods kitchen, is very important. And salmon, fresh salmon, can be expensive, but canned salmon is often very affordable. And when you can find wild-caught canned salmon, all the better, because the wild-caught is going to be the richest in your omega-3 essential fatty acids. Well, for me, when I saw this ghee, and being a traditional foods home cook, this was the star of the show. Now, if you're not familiar with ghee, ghee is basically clarified butter. It's butter that's been warmed gently and allowed the milk solids to be removed. It's wonderful to cook with, it's very rich in nutrients, and it has a very high smoke point. You can heat ghee up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit without damaging it. Can you make ghee homemade? Definitely. And my friend Jackie over at Little Country Cabin has a wonderful tutorial, which I'll definitely link to in the pinned comment. So if that's something that you want to make at home, you can definitely do this. However, if you don't get around to making it homemade, or you run out of time, you're just very busy, this is a terrific buy. These 2 jars were a total of $19.99. And each jar is almost 2 pounds of ghee each, 22.5 fluid ounces. So this was a terrific buy, basically $10 for a jar this large. And if you've priced ghee, you know ghee can be very expensive. So I was very happy to find this. Plus, this just isn't any ghee. This is from cattle, or from the cream from cattle that have been grass-fed. So you have to keep in mind that when cattle are grass-fed, their milk, their cream that we skim off the milk to make butter and to make ghee, is very rich in omega-3, very similar to what salmon is rich in. Plus, what's really nice about this Tin Star brand, where they say grass-fed, sometimes that term can be a little loosey-goosey. Were they grass-fed for 1 day, a week, 2 weeks, a month, the cattle, whatever the case may be? But this says pasture-grazed 365 days. So this is really a high-quality ghee. So if you see this at your Costco, definitely add this to your traditional foods kitchen. Alrighty, let's talk about flour, specifically all-purpose flour, and even more specific, organic all-purpose flour. My Costco is a great resource for organic all-purpose flour, and I can often find it in 25-pound bags. And when I get home, what I do is simply transfer it to my 5-gallon food safe buckets, these, with my nice twist on gamma lids that makes life very easy. I put some bay leaves down on the bottom to discourage bugs, and then whenever I need my all-purpose flour, I've got it all handy and ready. It's great for making sourdough bread, feeding my sourdough starter, and a whole host of purposes in the traditional foods kitchen. Yes, I love my ancient grains, I love my whole grains, but all-purpose flour or bread flour, if you can find that as well, definitely is very helpful, especially for making sourdough breads. Now let's talk about some of the things that are on the sweeter side. Costco has a terrific selection of jams and jellies, maple syrup, also honey, as well as other sweeteners. Now when it comes to jams and jellies, I really like to make mine homemade. And I have a playlist where I show you how to make a lot of different jams, low sugar, no sugar, how to water bath can them, and I'll be sure to link to that playlist. However, every once in a while when I come across a really good buy on a jam where the first ingredient is the fruit, I do like to buy some. And this especially caught my eye because it was organic and it's seedless raspberry, and seedless raspberry is probably one of my husband's favorites. Plus, this is also organic, and it was originally $4.99, but they were running a special with $1.50 off. So you can't beat that. I can't make that for this price. And this is 1 pound, 12 ounces. So this is a hefty jar, and this is definitely going to last us a good long while. And what was especially nice about this brand, as I said, I always look for ones that put fruit first, and this definitely does have organic seedless raspberries as the first ingredient. And it's also a low sugar jam, 33% less sugar than traditional raspberry jams. So organic, low sugar, fruit first, $1.50 off, I couldn't beat that. Now when it comes to sweeteners, Costco always seems to have a large selection, at least at the one that we go to. And these I actually bought on a previous trip, not our most recent trip there. But whenever I see maple syrup there, I always try to pick up a container because we do go through this pretty quickly. I use this every morning on our oatmeal, and so I'm always happy when I can find it. Now this is organic, which is terrific, and it's from Canada. It is grade A amber. I generally like to find, they don't so much say anymore grade A and grade, they used to say grade A and grade B. Now they'll just say grade A amber and grade A dark. I tend to prefer when I can find the dark because it is a little more nutrient rich. However, if what they're carrying at the time is amber, I'll usually just pick that up. And now with the honey, you may also see this in your area, a lot of variation. Being that we're in Texas, they have Texas raw unfiltered honey. So I picked up some of this. I always like to have honey on hand. And this is a nice pourable honey. And it says, you know, as it says, raw and unfiltered, which is wonderful. But I really like the fact that it's Texas honey. And sometimes they even have the honey on the honeycomb, and I love to get that as well. Also with sweeteners, Costco will sell a really large bag of organic white sugar. I don't buy a lot of that, but I do like to keep some on hand if I think I am going to be making homemade jams and jellies. Also, something that I don't buy there, but that I have seen there from time to time, is that Costco will have alternative sweeteners. I've seen stevia there, I've seen monk fruit, and different other, zero-calorie or alternative sweeteners that you may prefer to purchase rather than some of these calorie-rich or calorie-dense sweeteners. But I do like to have maple syrup and honey on hand because they are nutrient-rich. The next thing I want to share with you are the condiments that I like to buy at Costco. This is something that we've been finding recently there. They're garlic and jalapeno stuffed olives. These are so delicious. And I actually bought these on our previous trip, and I've got a couple of jars of this in our refrigerator. One's open, and I've got a couple in the back refrigerator to store, because when we saw them, I think we bought 4 jars at one time because we just go through these. They're absolutely delicious. So if you see these at your Costco and you like garlic and jalapeno, give these a try. And when it comes to olives, I just want to mention that, if you've been to Costco, you've seen they often have a big selection of olive oil. Now, I don't buy my olive oil there, being that I live in Texas and we have olive ranches in the area out here in the hill country where I live, I can buy olive oil locally. And when I don't buy it locally, I often will find a nice Italian olive oil that I like at my grocery store. Also, they always have a large selection of herbs and spices. Now, I like to grow a lot of my own herbs and dry them. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, I have a playlist about my herb garden and all of that, and I'll be sure to link to that. But if you like to buy a lot of your herbs and spices already dried for you, they are a great selection. And if you like to then use those herbs and those spices to make your own salad dressings or your own herb mixes, I also have a lot of videos where I show you how to do those things as well, and I'll be sure to link to that. But the one thing that I really like to buy at Costco are the black peppercorns. I just think that this is a terrific amount. I definitely like to buy peppercorns in bulk because I use a lot of them. I throw them into my bone broth. I pretty much use them in every area of my cooking. Whenever I'm doing something with turmeric, which is a wonderful anti-inflammatory spice, adding black pepper to it helps the body absorb it and really let the turmeric do its job at tamping down inflammation. So I always like to make sure that I have a big supply of peppercorns on hand. And this is a much smarter way to buy them than the tiny little jars at the grocery store. Yes, we love our coffee. As you've noticed, if you can see behind there, I have 2 coffee pots. My husband likes decaf, that's what I've got here, and I like caffeinated. And I actually got both of these on a previous trip to Costco, not our most recent one, but I like to pick up this, I think is it pronounced Rudamaya coffee. We like this brand. It's very flavorful, and being able to buy it, especially when they've got it in these large bags, it's quite a good savings compared to what it would cost us at the grocery store. And we're also happy when they carry the decaf. That way, we're all covered. We have the caffeinated and the decaf. And they have a large variety of coffee. This is especially nice because it is organic, but if it doesn't matter to you whether the coffee is organic or not, they do have a big selection, and I think that the prices are always better than what you can find at the grocery store. Now this big bag is about 2¼ pounds, and these are the whole beans. I like to buy the whole beans and then just grind them at home. It just stays fresher longer, especially if you're ever storing any of this in your prepper pantry. And the price is going to fluctuate. Coffee fluctuates. So it may be a big bag like this for the caffeinated, could run maybe around $18. But again, depending on how the price is fluctuating, it may be a little more expensive, maybe a little less expensive. But that's going to come in, at maybe a little under $9 a pound for organic shade-grown coffee beans, which is pretty good price. Now this is something new I've been seeing at my Costco, and I just love it. These are organic chickpeas. They're dried, and the bag is double sealed. This bag on the outside, feels loose, but then this is sealed really tight, like a nice hard brick where all the oxygen has been removed. So this can really stay fresh for a long time. This is a great prepper pantry option. But what I love about this is chickpeas are so versatile. You can do so much with them. You soak these and cook them up, and you can toss them with olive oil and vinegar. They make a wonderful topping for a salad or a side dish. You can whirl them up and make your own homemade hummus. You can use them in soups, and there's just unlimited possibilities, I feel, when it comes to chickpeas. And they're also nutritious. They're a wonderful source of a vegetarian form of protein. And what I really was pleased about was was $9.99, And this is 7 pounds. 7 pounds. And I just think that's fantastic. 7 pounds for $9.99 for organic chickpeas. And what was even better was they were running a promotion with $2 off. So this was $7.99. And something that's nice about this brand is they're not only offering chickpeas, they were also selling different types of lentils and, what are called the dal. Is it D-A-H-L or D-A-L? The Indian dal. And so that is a wonderful thing to buy also, especially if you like to make is it khichdi? I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. That wonderful Indian dal that's so soothing to the digestive system. And I have a video where I made that, and gosh, I just think it's terrific. But I had bought a bag of that as well. So this is definitely something to look for if you like chickpeas. But I just wanted to, or khichdi, as my Italian mother always calls them, or you may also know them as garbanzo beans. But speaking of garbanzo beans, Costco is a wonderful source for beans. And at least here in Texas, you can find 25-pound bags of pinto beans, 25-pound bags of black beans. So if you're a home canner, that's a wonderful resource, and they're very reasonably priced, especially since you're buying them in such large bulk. And even just buying them in that bulk and then packaging them up the way you want, whether in Mylar bags or however you like to store your food, that can be wonderful for the prepper pantry. And I have a video where I go over all the details of how to store these things that you buy in bulk and then want to break up and store in smaller portions. And I'll be sure to link to that video, because that can be very helpful. And no discussion about beans wouldn't be complete unless we also talked about rice. Costco is also a wonderful place to buy rice. They have very large bags of rice. They sell white rice and brown rice. They have regular rice. They have organic rice. Usually at our Costco, they have a big selection of rice. And even if your family doesn't like brown rice, or you don't like brown rice, and you want to buy white rice, I'm fine with that for a Traditional Foods kitchen, because white rice can be a wonderful vehicle, so to speak, to add additional nutrition into your meals, because you can cook your white rice in bone broth instead of water. And so it's a really great way to incorporate bone broth into your diet with a food like white rice that you might really like. And again, because they sell the rice in such large quantities, the price is really brought down significantly. And then when you get home, again, like with the beans, you can break it up and you can store it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and really extend the shelf life. So not only are you stocking your Traditional Foods kitchen, you're stocking your Traditional Foods prepper pantry as well, your backup pantry for your working pantry, as well as your prepper pantry serves, for those times when you have emergencies, whether it's bad weather or illness or job loss. Having that backup food and buying it little by little so that you don't bust the budget, and you're not like just clearing the shelf or waiting to the last minute. Just when you go shopping to Costco, just buy one at a time, break it up, stock your pantry, your working pantry, stock your prepper pantry, and you'll find that you're never running out of food. And if you want some ideas for how to stock your Traditional Foods pantry, both your working pantry and your extended or your prepper pantry, I have a very detailed pantry list, and it's free, and I think it's like 30 some odd pages, and you can easily head over to my website and download that. I'll be sure to put the link in the description below. Just open the description under this video and click on the link. It'll take you right over there. You can download that, you can print it out, or you can just keep it on your phone so you've got it handy when you're going grocery shopping. And not only I don't leave you sort of high and dry, so to speak, not only do I give you the list of the things that you may want to think about for incorporating into your Traditional Foods kitchen, I have lots of links in there to videos where I show you how to use these foods, how to prepare them properly, and how to incorporate them into meals. And I also have the printable recipes, so you'll be all set. Now this I thought was such a terrific buy. This was about $7 and change. I think it was $7.99. I had also bought this. I don't have this specifically on my price list over here on my receipt from checkout, because this I had bought on our previous trip to Costco. But when I saw this, I thought this was terrific. These are sprouted oats. Now, as we've talked about in many of my videos, often if you can sprout your grains, you may find that you can digest them better and that you can assimilate the nutrients better from them. If you make sourdough bread, you don't need to so much worry about soaking and sprouting because you're souring, and that also makes the grains more digestible. But if you've got something like oatmeal, you often want to soak it overnight, especially if you're just using the oat groats. And I have a video where I show you how to make oatmeal just from the oat groat, which is like the actual whole grain. But what if you want to bake some oatmeal cookies and you don't really want to get into soaking and sprouting and all of that, but you want to make sure that you're going to extract the maximum amount of nutrition from that oatmeal that you're putting into those oatmeal cookies, because maybe you're making oatmeal cookies homemade because you want to provide something more nutritious for you or your family. And that's why when I saw these, I thought these were such a great idea, because they're gluten-free. They're already sprouted for you. So these are rolled oats, but they're already sprouted and they're organic. How can you go wrong? Look at this big bag. This is 5 pounds. This is 5 pounds of organic rolled oats that have already been sprouted for you. So you don't need to worry about going through that process, which can be kind of difficult with oats, because in order to sprout oats the way they have here, where they're sprouted and flaked for you, or otherwise known as rolled oats, you would have to soak and sprout your oat groat, your whole oat berry. They're called oat groats. And I have a video where I show you how to soak and sprout grain. It's not really hard to do. You are not doing so much of the work as the grain is. You're going to soak it, and then you're going to allow it to sprout, and then you're going to dry it, and then you're going to have sprouted grain. And you can either grind that into a flour, or what they've done here is, after soaking and sprouting and drying the oat groat, they're flaking it. But in order to flake a grain, you need a special type of machine. Now, you can buy this, but I think they might be kind of on the expensive side. And it's not something that I do, so I'm not sure how involved or not involved it is. But for a little over $7 for 5 pounds of rolled oats, flaked oats that have already been sprouted for you, I think this is a great deal. You can not only use this in baking, you could use this to make regular oatmeal. You don't have to worry about soaking it overnight because it's already been soaked and sprouted for you. And you could also grind this in a blender. You don't even need a high-speed blender, just any old blender, and make oat flour. And then you've got a gluten-free flour. This is multi-purpose. So if you see this at your Costco, snatch this up, because this is such a traditional food and perfect for the traditional foods kitchen. Now I want to talk about some nuts and some seeds, and also something that I had not seen before. This was new to me, but I wanted to pick this up, and I'll tell you why in a second. But first, what I want to do is, while we're on the topic of talking about sprouting, I want to talk about these pumpkin seeds that I have found very frequently. I've been buying this for quite a while now at Costco. These are sprouted organic pumpkin seeds with sea salt. Now, can you soak and sprout your own pumpkin seeds? Definitely. However, this is very convenient. That's definitely the case. You know, if you're running a busy household, convenience can really make your things easier for you especially when you're making the transition from a processed foods kitchen to a traditional foods kitchen, and you're trying to figure out how to get all of your systems in place, how to make your bone broth, how to culture your dairy. Are you making yogurt? Are you making kefir? How to prepare your sort of whole foods meals like roast chickens, how to make your ferments, how to time that out, how to soak your nuts, how to soak and sprout your grains, how to maybe soak and sprout your seeds. And so sometimes in the beginning, when you are making that transition and you're incorporating these various tasks into your daily kitchen life little by little, taking a few shortcuts just to kind of give you a jump start can be very helpful. And even if you're all the ways over on your continuum in a full-blown traditional foods kitchen, sometimes depending on how busy you are, having a few shortcuts is a huge help. Now this is 22 ounces. Now it is organic. Organic is always a little more expensive, but this was $8.99. But this is a very good source of protein, especially if you lean towards a more vegetarian type diet. This is going to give you 8 grams of protein. And seeds are very rich in vitamins and minerals. And pumpkin seeds are especially important for men's health. So gentlemen, if you're watching this, pumpkin seeds are something you definitely want to incorporate into your diet. And ladies, if you're feeding men, this is definitely something that you want to add into their diet. So for those days or times when you need a shortcut, yes, this is a little more on the pricey side than if you just buy the raw pumpkin seeds and soak and sprout them yourself, but definitely something that I think can work well if it works in your budget to keep on hand. Next, I want to talk about nuts. Now, what I've got here are pecans, and I will soak these overnight in salted water, and then I will dry them and make what Sally Fallon, the author of Nourishing Traditions, calls crispy nuts. And the reason that we do that is a lot of what I was talking about here with soaking and sprouting seeds. Nuts, if you soak them overnight in salted water and then dry them very simply in a very low oven or in a dehydrator, it keeps them alive, it keeps them a living food, but it makes them more digestible because nuts and seeds, different foods like this, there are things that help protect them when they're out in nature, but those same protections can be anti-nutrients to those of us who are consuming them. So that in order to be able to digest them more easily and absorb the nutrients that these wonderful nuts have to offer for us, soaking them can help deactivate some of those anti-nutrients. Now, by soaking them and drying them, do you deactivate all of the anti-nutrients? No. But that's okay, because these anti-nutrients also have a good side to them. They're also antioxidants. And if you're familiar with the term antioxidants, it means that it helps fight oxidation in the body, things that would otherwise maybe damage your body. So there's two sides to anti-nutrients. It's not the end of the world, so don't worry about it. And some people may find that they digest nuts just fine without soaking them. So if you don't want to go through that process, don't worry. But if you've ever found that you have some trouble digesting nuts, you may find soaking them in salted water overnight and then drying them will make them more digestible. Now these are over 1 pound of pecans. This is 1.7 pounds of pecans, so that's a good amount of pecans. And it was $7.49. They're also organic. And even though we grow a lot of pecans here in Texas, that was a very good buy. So that's why I picked these up. And I also picked up some Brazil nuts, and I'll do the same thing to them that I'll do to the pecans. I'll soak them overnight in salted water, and then I'll dry them the next day in my dehydrator to get them nice and crisp. Now, the reason that I like to buy Brazil nuts is they're very high in a mineral called selenium. And that's something that as humans we need, but unfortunately modern diets are often very deficient in. But by incorporating some Brazil nuts into our diet, we can meet our selenium needs. Now these were $12.49. They were more expensive than the pecans, and this is 1.5 pounds. So it's a good amount, 1.5 pounds. You know, it is over $12. It's a little on the pricey side, but again, getting selenium into the diet can be difficult, so I feel that it's well worth it. And since you've got about 22 servings in here, assuming that you're, on the back they're saying that you're eating 9 Brazil nuts in one setting, we'll probably eat a little less. So I'll probably get a fairly good amount of servings out of this. Usually what I'll do is add Brazil nuts chopped up to salads and also to our morning oatmeal. So on a regular basis, I'm incorporating a little bit of Brazil nuts for the most part into our diet every day. Now these are dry roasted macadamia nuts. These are a real treat. And my husband is often fond of saying, oh, something just fell in the cart. We don't normally buy these because they are a little expensive. These were $19.49 for 1.5 pounds. However, the reason that they fell into the cart was because Costco was running a special giving $4 off. Now they're still expensive, but they are a treat, and we just sort of parcel them out and eat just a few at a time. But with the $4 off, it created a nice incentive for us to buy it. And we will eat these just as is. I'm not going to soak these overnight or try to dry them or anything like that, because they already have been dry roasted. And that's a tip that I want to share with you. If you're not interested in buying raw nuts and you're not interested in soaking them and in salted water and drying them to make them more digestible and whatnot, often your next best bet is to just look for nuts that have been dry roasted. Usually when they are dry roasted, that process helps make them more digestible. Now this is something I had never seen at Costco before, and it really did pull me in. This is organic sweet cacao nibs sweetened with coconut sugar. And so cacao nibs are like your original natural form of the darkest dark chocolate there is. I'll read to you what they say on the back. Darker than dark chocolate. Our cacao nibs are nature's original chocolate chip. Organic, dairy-free, and straight from the tree. Called the food of the gods by the ancient Aztecs, cacao nibs is loved for its unique photochemical profile and enhancing effects. These heirloom cacao beans are fermented and dried in a painstaking process that yields rich flavor and exceptional purity. Taste the difference when ancient wisdom meets modern nutrition. So I thought that was very cute. But the suggested uses, so how would you use cacao nibs? It says, try our nibs in trail mixes, desserts, smoothies, and baked goods for a crunchy, chocolatey indulgence. And cacao nibs are very high in magnesium. And magnesium is very good for relaxing our arteries and making our blood flow easier, and thereby benefiting our heart, making life a little easier on our heart. So I do like the idea of incorporating cacao nibs into our diet, and without the white sugar that often accompanies even dark chocolate. Now, these are sweetened, but that's kind of what attracted me, because if you've ever had plain cacao nibs, they're a little on the bitter side, and I did have a little trouble incorporating them into my recipes, and it definitely wasn't something that I found particularly palatable to enjoy. It was more like a medicinal type taste, and say, well, I'll eat it for medicinal purposes if it's good for my heart, being high in magnesium and whatnot, but it wasn't something I really enjoyed. But what drew me into this was that they're sweetened with coconut sugar. Something that I learned from all of you about coconut sugar is that you shared with me that it has a very mild effect in terms of insulin and glucose on the body. And so incorporating things when they're sweet that are made with coconut sugar are certainly going to be better than anything that's been sweetened with white sugar. Now this is a little more than a pound, and it was $12.49, so it is an expensive item, but it's a nutrient-dense item, and they're saying that there are 18 servings in here if you use 3 tablespoons per serving, which I think you could probably stretch that out even a little farther than that to make it last a little longer. But given its high magnesium count, along with all the other vitamins and minerals that are in cacao, I think this is definitely worth something to think about adding into your Traditional Foods Kitchen as your grocery budget allows. Now, if you would like to learn more about how to stock your pantry, your traditional foods pantry, whether your working pantry or your extended prepper pantry, be sure to click on this video over here, where I have a playlist that I walk you through step by step by step how to incorporate traditional foods into your pantry and into your meals. And I'll see you over there in my Texas Hill Country kitchen. Love and God bless.